Welcome to the RevOps Loop podcast with Maarten and Stjepan, brought to you by Digital Reach and the nonprofit tech shop. Get ready to learn about revenue operations, HubSpot, and beer.
Hey everybody, welcome to RevOps Loop podcast episode 15 at this point. We are getting up there. Special episode today. We have a special guest on, the one and only Kyle Jepson. I think everyone who knows HubSpot probably knows Kyle. That's usually how it goes. Kyle, very visible on LinkedIn, HubSpot tips and tricks. You've probably seen him introduce one of many HubSpot features recently. I would say, Kyle, is it safe to say you are the HubSpot Evangelist, or how would you, describe yourself? Who is Kyle Jepson?
Yeah, no, HubSpot Evangelist is great. That is my title. I was the first person to have that title, and for a long time, the only one. There are a couple more now, but yeah, I'm just a guy who works at HubSpot, and I love HubSpot. Genuinely love it. Genuinely love the users of HubSpot, and I do social posts and webinars and LinkedIn Lives and podcasts like this, just trying to help the people who are required by the nature of their job to use HubSpot to actually enjoy using it and feel like they're getting value out of it.
Okay. Love it. Yeah.
And besides okay. So yeah, I have a lot of questions, but like Maarten, you can go. So yeah, sorry for that.
I was just going to say, and safe to say, Kyle, you do it all with a lot of enthusiasm. It's typically very infectious, so contagious. That's a better word. Infectious is kind of negative. But yeah, no, love it. Yeah, I think we'll get right into it. But really, what we want to dive into is, tapping a bit more into your experience. You obviously seen a lot within the HubSpot world, things that work, things that don't work. So yeah, curious to just kind of pick your brain a little bit the next 30 minutes or so. But yeah, with that said, Stjepan, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So first thing that we want to talk more about is what is like your thoughts on the gap between somebody that's like manages HubSpot versus somebody that's like a RevOps full admin that knows HubSpot across all the tiers, all the hubs, and then even more. So like somebody can read P&L statements, they can build maybe data sets versus somebody that's just like an admin that needs to like manage it in a way that like creates property. Do you see any difference when people ask you for maybe like career advice or anything that like resonates with your content? If you can talk more about that.
Yeah, no, I love this question. This is a topic I think about a lot, and my thoughts are always evolving on it. But it's funny. I've kind of become the HubSpot admin guy, right? Like I do theoretically speak to all HubSpot users, but it's people who identify as HubSpot admins who really rally around my content. And I first discovered this in 2022 when I was very early on doing my daily social posts. I discovered there were a lot of people who identify as HubSpot admins. Their job title on LinkedIn is HubSpot admin. And that was so surprising because back in 2022, HubSpot's salespeople, when they were talking to prospects, they were using this line that like, HubSpot's so easy, you don't need a dedicated admin, right? If you buy a different CRM system, you'll have to pay a full-time person just to run it. But HubSpot's so easy, it just runs itself. And yet here there were all the hundreds of people who were full-time HubSpot admin. And I was kind of surprised. And when I started talking about it internally, nobody believed me that HubSpot admins actually existed because HubSpot had never done anything to support them and had sort of actually denied their existence and fought against the notion that they were needed. And now that a few years later, had a lot of time to dig into how this happens, I think a lot of especially smaller companies buy HubSpot with no expectation of anyone being dedicated to it full time, right? Whoever brought it on, a marketing manager or a head of sales or the company owner, they become the de facto person who adds and removes users, right? But nobody is really very intentionally owning it. And because HubSpot is such a simple platform to use, that is possible. But because it's such a broad, massive platform that holds so much business critical data, it's a bad idea, right? You need to have someone who's thinking about who has access to what products are we using or not using? Like, do we need to upgrade or do we need another hub? How are we going to roll out these updates, right? And I think most HubSpot customers at some point realize that. And a lot of times that person who was just the de facto, I'm the guy who adds and removes users, now is stuck running this platform, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, it's as enterprise software goes, it's pretty simple to use. You can do it without any training. Um,
Right.
but there's a lot of strategic opportunity that's missed there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, out in the broader world of business, this idea of revenue operations has really come into vogue in the last 5 or 10 years, right?
Right.
And this idea that not only do you need people thinking about operations, but you need someone thinking about the full operations pipeline: marketing, sales, customer service, delivery, back office, front office. How does all that turn into revenue? And it's really cool to see how operations professionals who used to just be, the owner of the company sees operations as a cost center. It's unfortunate we have to pay someone to do this, but we know if we
Right.
don't, we'll have problems. It's transformed from that into this truly strategic role. A really good revenue operations person has a seat at the table in like boardroom meetings and
Yeah.
in C-suite meetings, and they help make real decisions about the marketing process, about the sales process, about the customer service process. Um, but that person is often not like the person who really understands how the platform works. And I think that's maybe fine for other CRM type platforms. But HubSpot is an opinionated platform. HubSpot as a company believes there are right and wrong ways to do business. And we have
Hmm.
built our customer platform to help people do business in the right way. And so there's this incredibly rich and strategic opportunity for that person who is the de facto I run HubSpot to have these RevOps skills and to say,
Right.
now I know the strategy for how we're going to grow our company and help our customers, and I know the tools we need to use to do them. And that
Yeah.
is, most people are kind of one or the other. They're like an operations person who's figuring out HubSpot, or they're an admin person who's figuring out operations. But either way, as you get both skill sets, you become someone who offers a whole lot of value to your company.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember like three years ago we started a conversation. I think you like, how can we create something for somebody that wants to be an admin, but like also verify that they know what they're doing. I think we started like with, will be that like certificate or whatever, and then we spin it to create a HubSpot admin bootcamp. And I think that
Yeah.
was like the beginning. Now the bootcamp has grown a lot, more and more. That ties into my second question: is like, you were a academy professor at HubSpot. You did a lot of like sales related stuff, and even more on that. Like, I started watching, doing HubSpot and learning from you. But like, my question is like, do you think like, do HubSpot certifications actually matter for your career progression? What would you like do? And the second question is like, if you can then go to that topic, is when do somebody needs to start thinking about hiring a dedicated admin versus maybe having an internal person, and then like outsourcing it to a HubSpot, like a partner, solutions partner.
Yeah, these are all, Stepan, these are really hard and really important questions. The first one, HubSpot certifications, do they actually matter for career progression? I've been at HubSpot Academy 10 years now. This is a thing we are always asking ourselves. How is a certificate the right way to help people grow in their careers? And in some circumstances it is, and in some circumstances it probably isn't, and it depends a lot on the companies. I will say, and I don't feel bad saying this, I think this is pretty well understood. If you have never in your life done anything with, for example, social media, and you go and take HubSpot Academy social media certification course and you get certified, should someone hire you instead of someone who's been a social media manager for 5 years? Probably not, right? Like, you learn some great best practices, you pass a multiple choice exam, but for any job, real world experience really matters a lot.
Sure.
And for anything HubSpot's teaching, social media is actually a great example. It changes really fast, right? And so there's got to be some combination here, right? If you have been doing social media stuff for a while, but you haven't really had a clear strategy around it, and then you take and pass the HubSpot Academy course and get that certificate, now you have a really powerful combination, right? Because you have the real world experience, you have some maybe results you can share, but also you show that you know the current state of things. What is social media like today, right now?
Right.
And those two things together matter a lot. Um, uh, but now, I mean, it's 2026. Lots of crazy stuff is happening with AI, right? Uh, what will education at all look like in 5 or 10 years, right? Like,
Right.
certainly it's going to change, but I can't predict how it's going to change, right? I would be shocked if, in 2030, HubSpot Academy's flagship offering is still certification courses powered by multiple choice exams, right? Like that certainly there are
Yeah.
different opportunities available with the technology we have now, and certainly the world is changing so quickly that maybe video
Yeah.
content that gets updated once a year is not going to cut it anymore. This is
Yeah.
a thing we are very deeply thinking about, and we're going to have to answer. But I would say right now, today, we're recording this in early 2026. The certifications do still have value. They aren't enough to make up for a complete lack of experience. But even if you have experience, to take a certification and get some formal best practices is a good idea, no matter what realm you work in, right?
Right.
And so I think that is a great idea. Now, I've just said all that, and no, HubSpot Academy still does not have a HubSpot admin certification because it's been hard. It's such a massive thing. We want people to know everything there is to know about HubSpot, right? And that's changing on a daily basis. That's why I can make daily social posts about HubSpot. If we made some sort of video course, it would be outdated almost instantaneously. And so the boot camp Stjepan mentioned, that was a pretty novel idea when we came out with it. HubSpot Academy had a few little boot camps for very specific things, like how to make a sales phone call, right? And I proposed this idea: what if this is how we taught HubSpot admins? And so we workshopped the course, we figured out the curriculum, we got some people to teach it, and it was funny at that time. I think boot camps were capped at, I forget, 20 or 50 participants. And when we opened up the super admin boot camp, it filled up instantaneously. And so they raised the limit to like 100 participants, and that filled up. And so they raised it again and again. I think they finally capped it at 300. Yeah. And literally every quarter when they open it up, those 300 spots fill up within a week, right? Like, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
It turns out there is a pretty big pool of people who want these skills. And so this is the trade-off, right? If we do just video-based training with multiple choice questions, there's no limit to how many people we can deploy that to, right? We could do millions of people if that's what's needed. But it goes out of date quickly. It's not personalized. It's really hard to know how to apply it to your circumstances. On the other hand, we could do a boot camp, which is given live, which has Q&A sections, which has workbook activities you work through, and that's really great. But now we can only do it to 300 people at a time, and it turns out that's not enough, right?
And tough to scale. But that's then where, and you kind of alluded to it, right? The whole, what can AI do here, right?
Right, yeah.
This is
and
probably where you're looking at AI boot camps.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Again, 10 years on HubSpot Academy, the whole time we've been wringing our hands, this trade-off between scale and personalization and currency, right? Like, how do we do this? And now AI is here, and it's like, certainly the answer is here. We don't know exactly what it looks like. We don't know exactly how to make it good, right? You bring AI into the equation, and suddenly it's like, well, if it's just like a conversational AI assessment, is everybody getting the same assessment? Does your grade mean the same thing as my grade? Was it nicer to you than it was to me? But I think we'll figure out all those things. And, certainly, like I said, 2030, 2035, the whole world of education will look completely different from what it does now.
No, for sure. And I guess just final point on that, I guess, is that for typical certifications, where I think they could always still have some value, is they bring structure to what you may already know. At least speaking from my own experience, is where I've always worked in HubSpot for years and years, never really had too many certifications to begin with. And then when going through these, while not necessarily a challenge, right? I knew HubSpot, I use it every single day, but it helps you structure the way you think about HubSpot, helps you explain it a lot better as a consultant as well. And so there is a direct benefit to that, right? Of certification, where they just help you bring structure in what is an ever expanding platform at this point.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate how you said that. That actually clarifies some things in my own mind, because you can have the skills, you can be self-taught. Again, HubSpot is designed to be user-friendly, so that's a pretty easy thing to do. But if it's not, if you don't have that structure in your mind to understand the best practices and how to make choices and and the strategy, then you're not maybe doing things in the best possible way. And so I think both
Yeah.
are needed.
Or in the right order. I think this is, and
Right.
again, speaking for myself, like I remember, and I forget the exact use case, but I remember going through Marketing Hub in a specific way where I would pull up specific emails and automations you could do, and then going through the certifications where there was a more thought out order, right? First you start with the main hub here. These are the different
Yeah.
components. You open up the email. Let's start with campaigns before we go into different assets and link assets to campaigns. Like I would move the order around, which could sometimes get confusing when trying to explain it. And then after just going through
Yeah.
that certification, it's like, wait, let me start top down. Makes it a lot easier. But yeah, interesting though. It will be interesting to see how that evolves. Yeah, and I can definitely imagine that the boot camp approach is essentially what you want to mimic. And see how
Yeah.
AI can help there. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one thing that's really cool about boot camps that AI can't replicate is that you're connecting with other human beings who are doing the same job as you, right? Like,
Sure.
and I think for a HubSpot admin type person, where you work at a company and you're the only one who does anything with HubSpot, right? You very naturally feel
Yeah.
alone. I'm the only person in the world who enjoys using HubSpot, right? But then you come to the bootcamp and you realize, no, I'm an excellent company. There are lots of people, even in my own industry, who are facing these same sort of problems and have the same kinds of goals. And I think that is really valuable too, right? So if we
Yeah.
could use AI to scale up the like personalized training and assessment aspect of the bootcamp, but still maintain the real live human connection of a breakout room. Now
Yeah.
we're getting the best of both worlds, right? And that's
Yeah.
gonna
No, I
be
agree
cool.
with that. And I guess just, and this is again something that I think HubSpot especially, right, has done very well, is creating that type of community. I know it's very cliche. Every organization wants to create communities, but I feel like they've done a good job in doing exactly what you just said, Kyle. I identify myself in that 100%, where I was working as a growth marketer in several startups, very HubSpot heavy, but I wasn't necessarily in the HubSpot ecosystem, right? I just happened
Right.
to work a lot in HubSpot. And then exactly like you said, sometimes you feel very much on an island, right? Where like, I'm at this point obsessed with HubSpot. I know I'm trying to know it inside out. I'm running into issues, but I don't really know where to go. Do some Google
Yeah.
searches. All of a sudden you end up on the HubSpot forums and you're like, oh, this is a whole world here. Like everyone is talking
Yeah.
to each other. There's HubSpot admins. What does that even mean, right? And then
Right.
you
Yeah.
see that there's a
And
whole
HubSpot
community.
HubSpot has done an excellent job, but could do an even
Mhm.
better job of helping people make that leap, right? Like
Mhm.
today, right now, there are certainly hundreds or maybe thousands of marketers who read HubSpot's blogs diligently, who do HubSpot
Right,
Academy courses, and have no idea there's anyone else in the world who enjoys these things, right? They're just like, oh,
right,
I'm the one weirdo in the world who reads about marketing
right,
strategy for fun, right? And they're not.
right.
There's millions of people just like that, and they should be connecting with each other.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know Martin has a couple more questions to go through, but just like quickly to ask, like maybe like using AI for the academy. Like I don't know if you know like Lovable Replit. Now you connect your account and then you get like a shareable certification to LinkedIn based of how you're using it. Are you building like custom stuff and more? And it like you can start at beginner to proficient builder to expert, whatever. Do you think something like that in the near future, some like a I connect an account to like let's say one demo, and then when I build workflows, reports, data sets, like HubSpot identifies that to me, and then like it say, okay, he's really doing stuff. He's not just like learning it; he's doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, clear back in 2022 when I first realized just how massive the world of HubSpot admins is and how desperately they need and how much they deserve some sort of credential to show whether or not they're competent, right? I put together this loom and shared it with my team. And I was like, this is crazy. I know it's not possible, but here's what a HubSpot admin certification should look like. We should have some sort of HubSpot simulation. It's like a game that uses the HubSpot AI or UI, but isn't a real HubSpot instance, right? And then there's like a Slack channel where people just like say, hey, my deal disappeared. Hey, why is this report broken? Hey, what happened to this? Hey, can you add me as a user? Hey, and just like the real admin experiences these real Slack messages. And the assessment is you have 1 hour to resolve as many as these as you can in the real HubSpot account, right? And everyone agreed, that'd be really cool, Kyle, but how would we ever build that? It's impossible. That's 2022. Now it's 2026, right? I don't know if either of you have noticed, but very quietly last year, HubSpot Academy released simulations. There are certain certification courses now. When you do a practical exercise, it puts you not in your own HubSpot account, but basically in a sandbox that has dummy data that you have to like analyze and make changes to, right? So we're very close to that. And meanwhile, we've launched Breeze Assistant, which is a chat inside of HubSpot. And a few weeks ago, I just said like, hey, I'm a HubSpot admin. Pretend you are my teammates and you need help. Ask me questions. And it did a great job. Now, the assessment was very loose, right? Because AI is pretty sycophantic. It was just like, Kyle, you're a genius. Wow, you're the best admin in the world. Whoa, perfect score, right? And we'd have to figure out that piece. But I would love to have a world where the HubSpot admin certification is you say, I'm ready to do it. And we drop you into one of those sandbox environments. It's full of all kinds of broken data, right? Yeah. And Breeze just says, hey, here's a report. Why is this report and that report showing two different things? And you have to dig into the actual data and give an answer, right? And it's like, hey, this sales rep said someone changed the amount on their deal. Who did that? And you have to dig into the property history and find it out, right? Like all of that technology exists today. We just haven't exactly figured out how to package it together into that experience. And I'm so excited that now that is like a thing that is imaginable. That's almost a thing I myself could build, right? So I think we've got to be getting close to that sort of world.
For sure. And I think also, and just on that note, because 100% right, but you mentioned Breeze, for example, those kind of AI features are already there. They're quite helpful. Personally, I've seen quite a lot of improvement there in the last, I guess I would say year or so.
Yeah.
Breeze specifically, I mean, just logically, the way it responds. So I'm assuming this is an ever evolving feature. But if I just compare it to a year ago, you had to feed it, or it felt like you had to feed it very exact information for it to give you a response that worked. Versus it's a lot more contextually aware now. It can understand what you're asking, piece it together, and give you an output. That's just something I've noticed. I don't know if you're probably more in the loop of the changes that are made.
Breeze, when it first launched, was not good. We put it there, and we said it can do all kinds of things. And every time I tried, I said, hey, Breeze, can you help me with this? It said, sorry, I don't know how to do that, right? And it was just like so disappointing. But it's been completely rebuilt, and now it's really good. And I think where we mostly suffer is all the early adopters who tried it at first were like, oh, Breeze isn't good. But now it's incredible, right? And if you want to talk about admins specifically and what they might use AI for inside of HubSpot, like I recently went into Breeze and you know, I just have a HubSpot account. I don't actually run a business or anything, so I just put all kinds of garbage in this HubSpot account. Right. But I went into Breeze and I said, you know, I'm starting a company where I offer in-home music lessons. And I need my data model to represent lessons and students and teachers. Can you help me do that? And Breeze was excellent. It was like, yeah, I think you need a music lesson custom object. I think it should associate with contacts. I think you need a couple of association labels, one for student, one for teacher. I think the music lesson object itself should probably have a drop down for the like what instrument they're being trained on, a start date, an end date. And it gave me like this whole data model. And some of it was like, well, actually, I'm thinking about it a little differently. Let's revise that. And some of it was like, oh, that's a really great point. And we went back and forth a couple times until we got it exactly defined correctly. And I said, Breeze, can you just build that for me? And it said, yeah. And it created the custom object, and it created the association labels, and it created all the custom properties, right? And like, that was so much better than me just like manually trying to build all that stuff myself, right? I had someone I could talk to. I could think through the implications. It could ask me questions. I could answer them. And once we were sure it was right, I could just say, build it. I didn't have to go click all those buttons myself. And that's just today, right? Like it's only going to get better and more powerful from there.
Yeah. And I guess it's also what you could say people expect nowadays, right? That's kind of the AI impact, right? Because I to your point, when Breeze came out, I was also, I don't know if it was bad. It was just, I remember being very hyped, then trying it out and being slightly disappointed. Like, it's good, but not great. I can't really use it every day, sort of thing. But then and Stjepan and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, one of the episodes of like how AI has sort of raised the bar. And this is one of those things where AI has raised the bar. Like, oh, I expect to be able to go in, chat with an AI to help me build something. Like that has become the norm at this point, right? And I think that's a challenge for say, including for a Breeze to live up to, right? So it's just interesting
Yeah.
to see how those expectations keep pushing things forward.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, everybody has a ChatGPT subscription or a Claude subscription or a Gemini subscription these days, seems like, right? And so a very common and a very reasonable question is like, well, why do I need Breeze when I have these world-class LLMs, right? And it's
Well,
interesting.
yeah,
I've
it's a
gotten
good question.
recently to see like the kind of the back end of Breeze, and it's using a lot of those frontier models from ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, but also we are feeding it in a whole bunch of proprietary HubSpot knowledge, right? So now when you open up Breeze, if you're like on your deals page, it knows you're on the deals page, right? And you can
Yeah,
add, or if you're viewing a specific contact, you can just say, hey, who is the last person to work on this contact? And it knows what contact you're looking at, and it can give you that
yeah,
information, right? And
yeah,
we've also fed it in not only our entire knowledge base that you might access at knowledge.hubspot.com, but also a whole bunch of internal stuff that like only our support teams and stuff have access to. So when you ask Breeze questions, unlike an external LLM, which is just like relying on knowledge from the internet, it has current, right now, HubSpot information, the best in the world, right? And so when it comes to working in HubSpot, Breeze is the best possible AI to be using, right? And then it can actually take actions and do things. And so I love Claude. I use Claude on a daily basis. I also am a big fan of ChatGPT. I am all for using those tools where it makes sense to use them, but I would highly encourage anyone who's a HubSpot customer
yeah.
to use Breeze because it's included in it's there. It's free. You
Yeah,
don't have to pay $20 a month or whatever, right? You just have it.
yeah, and then also it's probably a road to RevOps Admin that we started the conversation for. Like, just use it, try to break it, see what it can do, what it can
Yeah,
do, and then you will probably learn a lot about HubSpot. Even if you just ask it like simple questions, is like, what's my data model? How can I improve it?
yeah,
Do you see like any implications on like sales to marketing handoffs that probably are not good? Is like our conversion rate can be better? Like, what should I do? Like, ask
right.
it that questions. I think you will learn how to think as a RevOps person
Yeah,
more,
absolutely.
because it will give you a feedback as a RevOps person, because it will take
Yeah,
look deeper into data, look the conversion metrics, whatever, and how the data is set up, and you can like learn from it also as you go, as you learn, and then you will also become better in HubSpot because you will see what it built. Just asking it like, okay, build it for me, but like, can you let me know where you will start, what are we building, and more. So I think that's like probably also
yeah.
a road
No,
to RevOps as a guy. Yeah.
I agree. I agree because yeah, you can ask it questions about your data and it'll tell you. And then if you're like, "Oh, my email open rate is bad. How do I fix that?" Then it'll pull up, HubSpot Academy information. And the thing that's really cool is Breeze has digested all the closed caption files for HubSpot Academy videos. So it doesn't just say, "Here, watch this 10-minute video." It says, "Here's a video queued up to 2 minute and 37 seconds right where it talks about how to improve open rate," right? Watch this 20-second clip and it'll tell you the thing you need to know exactly right now. And that's great.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's cool, Kyle. I guess a last sort of topic question I just wanted to get into is, obviously you work with and you've trained and a lot of HubSpot admins, HubSpot users in general, right? I guess looking at some of the mistakes, not your mistake, but more as in, what are some of the biggest HubSpot mistakes that you typically see, whether it's the way people go about being a HubSpot admin, right? Perhaps some operational things are doing wrong. I'm just wondering, like in your experience, what you've seen come through, and what are some of the biggest mistakes within HubSpot that HubSpot admins at times tend to make.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on a couple of things. I really do believe there's a lot of power in connecting with others in the ecosystem. If you're alone, if you're not networking with anyone, you're losing an opportunity, because my experience talking with HubSpot admins is they're all really eager to solve problems and work together, right? So if you can find a community somewhere and hop in and say, man, I'm having a hard time getting this report to display the way I want to. Has anyone faced this before? Someone's going to be like, oh yeah, here, I just solved this same problem last week. Here's how I finally figured it out, you know? So I
Right.
think that's really important. I think, you know, don't sleep on the AI tools, figure out how to use them so that you can be better at your
Definitely.
job. And also, you know, lean into the operation stuff, learn some of the revenue operations frameworks and things so that you are seen as more than just a systems administrator type person. You can be that strategic partner to your business
Yep.
leaders. I think some combination of all these things.
Yep.
And then just I think one thing we haven't talked about is the life of a HubSpot admin seems to be, you have these dreams of, I know revenue operations, right? If we reformulated our sales pipeline in this way, we could increase our close rate. Today's the day I'm going to start work on that. And then, nope, actually, I got to onboard this new user, and I got to, you know, fix this thing that broke over here. And, oh, I got to generate this report for the VP of sales.
Yeah.
And I think very often admins come into get stuck in this mode of just, you know, taking other people's orders and solving other people's problems. And that's a really hard thing to fix. You know, you can't just like ignore your VP of sales when he's like, I need a dashboard for a meeting I'm going to right now, you know. But at the same time, I think HubSpot admins owe it to think of themselves more strategically than that. That you should somehow try to box off some time where you can work on the strategic things you want to work on, because that's where you will really provide unique value to your company. And that is a hard thing to know how to do. That's going to vary person to person. There's no, you know, cure-all answer I can give right now. That's just like, hey, if you block off 2 p.m. every afternoon, you're going to get great things done, right? It's not like that. But I think my encouragement to HubSpot admins is to not allow themselves to settle for being treated that way, right? Like, you have to solve these problems, but also you owe it to yourselves and your companies to figure out how to take things to the next level.
And now with the sandbox and everything, like they can easily just like build a sandbox. Okay, let me change this, rework it, and then be proactive if I find time and if there's like not a lot of fires that I need to like extinguish quickly, and then just present it to a Loom or to somebody, and like if they say okay, let's do it, you just push it to production. So like I think that's like something that any admin can do if they have access to sandboxes. Okay.
But no, and I love that. Love that, Kyle. Like those, and I think those are again very recognizable sort of not shortcomings, but traps that people fall into. Right, not leaning into the community, and when there is one, and when you're an admin, and not leaning into the AI usage of it all, and then, like you said, kind of transitioning more into order takers as opposed to really stepping up and co-leading at the strategy, which you kind of alluded to in the very beginning, right? When we were talking about a HubSpot user versus a real RevOps admin, and what the difference is between those two. Ideally, either you split them entirely, but you should ideally be both, right? You should be, if you're managing the tool, you should be leading the RevOps strategy through that tool, through HubSpot as well, right?
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that approach. Yeah. Awesome. Well, then, Kyle, thanks a lot for that. We always finish off with a segment to kind of round it all up. We've talked enough about HubSpot and RevOps and CRMs. So Stjepan and I, we always rate our favorite beer of the week. We're both beer drinkers, so we're 15 episodes in, so we've rated 30 beers in total so far. We got a bit of a collection going. But whenever we have a guest on the podcast, right, we always want to push the question to them and just say, hey, what is, first of all, are you a beer drinker? If not, what is your beverage of choice? And what would stand out? What's your go-to?
So here's the part where you're really going to regret that you brought me on and you're never going to ask me back again. When it comes to beverages, I am the most boring person you're ever going to meet. I literally just drink water all the time. But I knew this question was coming. And I wanted to have something for you. The one exception, the one time I drink something that's not water, is when it's really cold outside and I have to go out and like shovel the snow and I come back in. I love just a thick, rich, warm cup of hot chocolate. I think that is just tops. Now, obviously, that's not a year-round drink. In the summertime, I'm not going to touch it. But I think there's
Right,
something
right.
comforting about something thick and smooth and hot when you've just been out working hard in the snow. So
Love
I
that.
love that.
Okay, but otherwise you are staying hydrated. You are water all day, every
I
day.
am. Yeah, no. And like, I feel like beverages in general, people love different beverages. And I feel bad. Like, I don't even drink juice or like milk or anything. Like, I just literally drink water. And my kids think I'm boring. And my wife thinks I'm boring. And now you think I'm boring. But yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm probably healthy. Maybe I'll
No,
live longer than everyone else. I don't know.
the hot chocolate saved it, Kyle. You're good.
Oh,
You're
great.
good.
Whew. Well, this is great,
Love
guys.
that.
Thanks for having me on.
This is great. Stefan, you got anything else to close us out on your side?
No, I think like just thanks for being here, talking with us, and we always encourage our listeners to drop any questions, ask us. But like, where can they find you if they want to ask you any questions? I know we touch based on like where you are most active, but if you have like your favorite channel to
Yeah.
get some.
So LinkedIn is I am there all the time, multiple
Right.
times a day. That is definitely the best place to reach me. I mean, Stjepan and I go way back, and we probably have each other's email addresses, but it was through a LinkedIn DM that he asked me to be on this show. So yeah, if you need to reach me, Kyle Jepson, the guy who works at HubSpot, you'll be able to find me, and I'm happy
There
to
you go.
connect with anyone who wants to talk about HubSpot admin stuff.
Yeah, love it. I think at this point, if you just Google that, the guy who works at HubSpot, you'll probably pop up, Kyle. So there you go.
Maybe.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hope you have a good one. We'll close the loop on this one. And yeah, talk to everybody else on the next episode. Bye, all.
Bye bye.